Good morning. So this week we're going to discuss the life of Rabbi Yitzchak ben Walid. Rabbi Yitzchak ben Walid was considered to be by many of the great Dayanim in Morocco as the principal sefer, one of the principal Sfarim, I'll call it, that had to be known. His two Sfarim, Vayom Yitzchak, are well used by all of the Moroccan poskim after him. So I'd like to discuss a little bit his lifetime and his challenges and a little bit of his path in halacha. A little bit of his path in halacha. So Rabbi Yitzchak ben Walid was born in the year Tav Kuf Lamed Het, 1778, and he was niftar just around that he was born just around at the time that Rabbi Yaakov ben Malka was niftar. I don't know if you remember that we mentioned Rabbi Yaakov ben Malka lived at the time of Rabbi Yaakov ben Sur, and he was his main, we'll call it Bar Plukte. He argued a lot in halacha with Rav the Ya'avetz. And it was just the end of the golden era. It was the end of the golden era in Morocco into the 1700s. So that's exactly when he was born. So there's a pasuk that says V'zerach hashemesh uba hashemesh. Once the sun sets, there's another sun that rises. So this is the sun that HaKadosh Baruch Hu gave us of Rabbi Yitzchak ben Walid. He was born in Tetwan. His father's name was Rabbi Shem Tov, and already from a young age, he was he started being known as somebody who his future was for gadlut. He learned under two great rabbanim, Rabbi Moshe Levi, as well as Rabbi Menachem Nahon. These were some of the great Gionei Ador. You could see them signed in all of the takanot of the 1700s. Rabbi Moshe Levi, in particular, is not as well known, but just to give you an idea, who he was, the great Tokfo Shel Yosef, Rabbi Yosef El Maliach, writes, Im tishtakach Torah mi Yisrael, Harav Moshe Alevi yachzirena bepilpulo ubekiuto. That if the Torah would be forgotten in Israel, Rabbi Moshe Levi would be so great that he had the power to restore the Torah. That means that the Gdolei Ador at that time, the Tokfo Shel Rabbi Yosef El Maliach, one of the great Harifim that we ever had, discusses his life, and discusses his this Rabbi Moshe Halevi at length, and he writes like this. So at 17 years old, already Rabbi Yitzchak ben Walid was proficient in all of Shas. He was already known to be someone. He had a beautiful voice as well. And he continued in this path of gadlut. At 18 years old already, he married his first wife, and she was niftar shortly afterwards, which is when he married his second wife, Simcha, the daughter of Rabbi Vidal Bibas. And from them he had a lot of children. He had Yaakov, Yosef, Shlomo. He had six daughters. I think at one point he had 13 people in the household. He had 13 people, including themselves, I assume, 13 people in the household, and from there he had to support a large family, and he wasn't exactly rolling in the money, as we call it. He lived very frugally. He used to write shtarot. He used to write documents for the bet din. That's what he used to do, and that's how he used to earn a meager parnasa, and he lived that way with a meager parnasa. His family also had a bet knesset. The way it worked in Morocco was that a family owned a bet knesset, and they would get a little bit of income from that. So it's documented that he writes in Chelik Bet Siman Kuf He that in the city of, I don't know how to pronounce this exactly, Jidorina, the old Jidorina, there was they had a bet knesset that he had as an inheritance from his parents. Okay, so that's more or less where the Yitzchak ben Walid came from, and around the time that he was born and that he grew to. the year 1930, let's start with that. In the year 1930, his Rav, Rabbi Moshe Levi, passed away. So that was crucial because he was the Av Bedin at the time. So we're talking about Tetouan, and in the north of Morocco, and people, the people of the community put tremendous pressure that he should take the job of being the Av Bedin. But in his great humility, Rabbi Yitzchak ben Walid, not only did he refuse to take this job, but he ran away to Gibraltar so that they would leave him alone. So he had to run away from Gibraltar, and they didn't. But the community didn't give up to a point that they ran after him in Gibraltar, and he had to accept the position. But he made a condition that two other Chachamim should be with him, and those two Chachamim were Rabbi Yom Tov HaLevi, who was the son of Rabbi Moshe Levi, and also Rabbi Yitzchak Nahon. Rabbi Yitzchak Nahon was an unbelievable individual. It's written in the Sefer Malchi Rabbanan from Rabbi Yosef ben Naim that Rabbi Yitzchak Nahon had like these miracles done to him. One time it was tremendous rain, and it was on Friday, and nobody could go out of their house. It was like hail on it. There was a lot of rain, and he told his son, "Listen, we don't have anything for Shabbat. I want you to go in the shuk, even though there was nobody there. Obviously, it was tremendous rain. I want you to go in the marketplace. There's going to be a goy in a certain corner. Go to him, and he'll have a fish. Buy that fish for Shabbat." And that kid went out. He found one goy with one fish, and basically basically that's how he had food for Shabbat. He was a holy Jew. He was a holy Jew. So that was Rabbi Yitzchak Nahon. So if you just take a look at they used to have documents. Still today, some people have that. It's called Kitvei Hachtara. It's called the document of the coronation of the rabbi when they make him the Av Bedin. So it was written, us, the community of Tetouan, and the head of the community's name was Rabbi Vidal Yisrael. We all made an agreement, Dvar Mitzvah, with Haskama Gemura, with total agreements, that we accept upon ourselves all of the rulings, like it's from the high rabbinical court of Yerushalayim. Any fights that we have between us and our brothers, even if we have to pay money, whatever he tells us on the right is left, left is right. Anything that Rabbi Yitzchak ben Walid, we accept upon ourselves his leadership. So that was really the coronation, and from there started Rabbi Yitzchak ben Walid's leadership. It's very important to remember, as we see, one of his glaring midot was his anava, was his modesty. Rabbi Yitzchak ben Walid's modesty. He would run away from kavod, and you see this throughout his writings. Although in the writings he's a lion, but he would always have tremendous amount of anava and respect for the Gedolei Ador. I'm just going to give an example. Who is written in his haskamot, who is written in his approbations to the Sfarim, Rabbanim from all over the world. We start off with the Mahara Ashkenazi, who was the Rishon LeZion at the time. And we're going to see soon how he had connection to them. There was not Ashkenazi. There was Rav Meir Orbach. Rav Meir Orbach was the author of the Imre Bina. He was the Rav Shlomo Zalman Orbach's ancestor. You have Rabbi David ben Shimon, who was the head of the Moroccan community in Eretz Yisrael. You have Rabbi Eliyahu Mani, who is quoted many times in the Ben Ish Chai from Hebron and Tiberia, the Chachamim of Tiberia as well, the Chachamim of Tzfat. Rabbi Moshe Pardo from Alexandria. He also had he used to also have correlation back and forth with Rav Chaim Palaji. the Mechaber Sefer Lev Chaim. If you take a look in Lev Chaim, Chelik Bet Siman Kuf Yud and Kuf Yud Aleph, he quotes over there Rav Yitzchak ben Walid. Now, Rav Yitzchak ben Walid also, if you take a look at his Teshuvot, he had questions from all over the world. In Chelik Aleph, Siman Chaf Aleph, there was a Teshuvah from Lisbon. There was questions from Marrakesh. There was questions from Gibraltar. In Chelik Aleph, Siman Mem Chet, he was asked a question from London. In Siman Nun Gimel from Oran. There was El Arif, there was from Sofro, from Asafi, there's from all over. The Hachamim of Tiberia also used to send him questions. If you take a look at Chelik Bet, Siman Kuf Tzadivav, he writes how in Ira Kodesh Tiberia, they sent him a bunch of shtarot of inheritance and that were made in Bavel, and they asked him what he thought about it. He was in communication with all the great Rabbanim of the world at that time. His light was already very well known. There was two Chachamim in particular in his era that we know he had a connection with. One of them was Rabbi Didia Monsonego, the ancestor of the Monsonego family that we know more common. Rabbi Didia Monsonego was the recent chief rabbi in Morocco. So his ancestor was the Dvar Emet, Rabbi Didia Monsonego. And he had a very close connection. As he see in one place, he writes, "Haravagon ozenu pachad Yitzchak." He says, "The love that I have towards the Rav Pachad Yitzchak." They had a connection, and as well, it's a famous story that Rav Yaakov Abu Chatzera in the year 1868. So if you take a look in the year in the year Tafresh Chav Bet. I believe he Tavrish Chavchet. I'm sorry. He visited Titwan, and he didn't want to be known who he was. And in the yeshiva, they found out because there was a problem with Tosfot, and Rabbi Yaakov Abu Chatzera told them pshat. So they found out it was really Rabbi Yaakov Abu Chatzera, and he actually resided by Rabbi Yitzchak ben Walid for 6 months. 6 months. And Rabbi Yitzchak ben Walid was quite old at the time. If you make a calculation, he was already. Well, the dates don't. He was niftar when he was 83 years old. So this would be 6 years beforehand. So he was already 76 years old. Yeah, he would be 76 years old. So Rabbi Yitzchak ben Walid was quite old. It was at the end of his life already when Rabbi Yaakov Abu Chatzera and him had a connection. It's a famous connection that they had between themselves. These two gdolim, one from the south and one from the north of Morocco, and they came together. Now, just to speak a little bit about his path of leadership, Rabbi Yitzchak ben Walid used to be very concerned about the poor. He would himself give money to the poor people by their doorsteps consistently. And one time, the community wasn't giving money for the poor people. So he announced that he didn't have any food for his family, any meat for his family. So they agreed that they're going to make a tax on any meat that was sold. Everybody would pay a little bit extra. And they said, of course, for the rabbi, we're going to do it. And everybody paid the tax. And at the end, he says, okay, thank you very much. And he took all that money and he gave it to the poor. So that was his way of getting fundraising in Titwan in the 1800s. That was the crowdfunding that they did in those days. A little bit different than nowadays, but that's what he used to do. Now, I want to mention a few more things that in the year Tafresh Chav Bet. Again, this was the year that we mentioned that Rabbi Yaakov Abu Chatzera visited him. So in that year, he decided that he wanted to go to Eretz Yisrael, and he wanted to finally make Aliyah and live the rest of his life in Eretz Yisrael. So he landed in Haifa. He went to Haifa, and he founded a yeshiva called Bet HaLevi. He was with the funding of the well-known Levi family from Gibraltar, and he went there. to spend the rest of his years in Gibraltar, in Eretz Israel. Now there is a story reputed, and I think I even said this story once. I think I said this story once that he landed on a boat. He landed off the boat, and something happened, and they had to pray for his refuah. I don't. I heard afterwards that story wasn't so reliable, so I'm just not going to say it over again. I think it's on one of the previous recordings that I might have spoken by some bakashot in Toronto, but the more reputable story that happened, and this is based. A lot of this information that I'm getting is based on the information that Rav Shlomo Dayan Shlita, who lives in Har-Nof in Yerushalayim, has a whole center of named on by Yitzchak ben Walid, and when he printed the Vayomer Yitzchak, he added in a whole hakdama of his life story written, and that's where I'm getting the information from. And Rav Yitzchak ben Walid, for some reason, came back to Morocco. Now it's hinted in one of the hispedim of the Rishon LeZion, then the Yisa Beracha. He's hinted in one of his hispedim. He said, don't think maybe bad thoughts. Yitzchak ben Walid left Eretz Israel because he went there to lead his nation once again. And it seems to be that the reason why he came back was that he knew that Hashem wanted him to be with his flock in Morocco, which is what he did, which is why he went back to Morocco, and that's actually where he's buried in Titwan. He's buried in the mountain that was there 2 years ago. It's a very special place to be by. It's on top. You can see the whole city from that place. And he was very makpid that in his kever nothing should be written. He gave specific instructions that he doesn't want. He doesn't want anything. He says the darshan should say in his name on the day that he died that he asks mechila from the Al-Kala Kadosh, and maybe because he made a mistake and he in any of his halachot, and he was very makpid. As a matter of fact, on the kiver it's not written anything. He didn't want anything. He was very makpid in those instructions. And according to, there are some who said he was niftar on Friday, Chet Adar Bet, which would be this Friday, this Friday is also Chet. But many say he was niftar on Tet Adar, on the 9th of Adar Bet, so that's his Hilula, the 9th of Adar Bet, which is going to be this Shabbat. And they talk about the tremendous, the year that he was niftar, Tafresh Lamed, which was 1890, which was 1890. Which was 1890. Something doesn't go actually. No, not 1890. I'm sorry. Tafresh Lamed, 1870, which was 1870, which was when he was niftar. Tafresh Lamed. Yeah, Tafresh Lamed, 1870. Sorry, and they talk about in Gibraltar. People came from Gibraltar. They came all over, and it was a tremendous hispid. And the one who took his place was Rabbi Yitzchak Nahon. Now, that is the life more or less of Rabbi Yitzchak ben Walid, and from then on, the place of his Hilula became a great gathering. His Sfarim, as I mentioned, which is really his legacy, Vayomer Yitzchak, are learned by Gdolim internationally. The Ben Ish Chai in Rav Pe'alim, Shelot Utshuvot Rav Pe'alim, you could look at it, Chelek Bet Orachaim Siman Chaf Bet, writes, Achar Kotvi Kol Aniskar La'el, after I wrote my whole Teshuvah, I came by a copy of a Teshuvah of the book Vayomer Yitzchak to the great Rav Mofet Ador, the wonder of the generation, Rabbi Yitzchak ben Walid. It's known that Rabbi Rafael Ankawa, the chief rabbi of Morocco in Rabat, in the generation afterwards, would, in his works, would quote the Vayomer Yitzchak as the final word. I'll give you a few examples. In the Sefer Pa'amonei Rimon, Pa'amun Rimon, which is addition to Pa'amun Zahav. He writes, Ve'nei tzadikim techezena besefer vayomer Yitzchak, Hagam shesh badenu od la'avi midivre poskim chazud lidvarenu, even though we could bring many other poskim, but since we found already that Vayovarim Yitzchak says these things, in tzarich la'arich, we don't need to say more. In other words, final word. He also writes in the Sefer Karnei Re'em Chelek Aleph Siman Mem Bet. He says, Ikar hadin irali de'en lanu lazuz mikol lanu peski shel harav mohorivyu. In other words, we shouldn't move from any of the psakim of Rabbi Yitzchak ben Walid. Vadai kavate naktinan lefanav niglu kol ta'alumot. For sure we will go according to him because was revealed to him all of the secrets. The tremendous kavod that they gave to the works and the authority they gave to Vayomer Yitzchak. Right. So again in Siman Ayin Bet he says. He says, Hoil, even though there's a big machloket, Hoilu matzanu ilan gadol lismoch alav, since we found a great tree to rely on, in other words, Rabbi Yitzchak ben Walid, who more review, nachad datenu lismoch alav, hen mitzad sfara, hen mitzad arab, more review, acharon chabib, he is the last authority, the kaimalan kibatra, and the halacha is always like the last one. In other words, he was once again emphasizing this point, and he brings it in many of his teshuvot. Also, when I put out the sefer of Rav Chaim David Serer, who was a dayan in Fez in the 1950s, the 1960s, 1950s, you could also see that the work of Vayomer Yitzchak was something that had to be reckoned with and always well known to the dayanim. The first section, the first Chelek of Vayomer Yitzchak, Chelek Aleph, is about a few teshuvot on Orach Chaim, a few teshuvot on Yoreh De'ah, and mostly on Even HaEzer. And Chelek Bet, which I have over here, is all on Choshen Mishpat, monetary laws. And they have many rules, many principles, many yesodot, many fundamentals in them. Rav Ovadia Yosef in his Sfarim and Yabia Omer quotes Vayomer Yitzchak extensively, and his light shines till today to those who learn his Torah, and Zichuto really should protect us. Yagin Aleinu Amen. That the life of Rabbi Yitzchak ben Walid should be an inspiration to us, and more importantly, we should delve in his Torah and keep his legacy, that is his real legacy, alive. Chazak u'baruch.